What's up YouTube, Card Boss here back with another video where we talk cards, money, investing, and welcome to episode number 1 of the workshop series. What is this workshop series, you ask? Well, it's basically came about from a number of comments from my viewers on YouTube, followers on IG, as well as some local friends asking similar questions. How do you buy and sell cards as a side hustle or like myself, eventually turning it into an almost full-time job? Now I say almost because I still have a full-time gig outside of cards, but buying and selling as well as investing in cards occupies more than 50% of my daily routine. And let's be clear, I won't be spending 50% of my time if it's either A, not financially worthwhile, and B, not having any fun. Well, this workshop is basically not to tell you how to have fun. That's all you, of which having fun is a big aspect of collecting and investing. But if you're thinking of how to make money on the side or eventually do more than just some side pocket money, this workshop will definitely give you some tips on how you can get your act done more effectively. Alright, let's go. So in episode 1 of this series, I'm going to discuss something so trivial but yet ultimately vital in being successful in card investing, and that is to set goals. A lot of us starting out, the goal and objective is pretty simple: to make money. Buy something for say $50 and sell it at a profit, rinse and repeat. But as you all know, there are more things to it, especially if you're operating like myself overseas, 100% on the internet, with zero access to local card stores or shows. Those things can get very tricky pretty quickly, as there are a lot of hidden costs that would tend to stack up. And by the time you're done, you're not even sure if what you're doing is correct, profitable, or even worthwhile at the end of the day. So in this episode, I'm going to share a very simple cheat code, which you can try later on, which is to set some simple goals. First, I'm going to show you my goal settings, which works for me, but it may be different for you depending on your budget, risk appetite, and of course, what are you trying to achieve financially from buying and selling cards. But ultimately, the point is that all goals need to have the same core principles: realistic, time frame driven. So let me explain why goals are important. A lot of times I get people just buying a couple of cards, most definitely with the intention to make a profit, but they find themselves caught in a situation that they either couldn't flip it at the margin they wanted to or at the speed that they wanted. In some cases, suddenly they drag out holding on a particular card for too long, perhaps eventually selling at a loss, or the card value declines for some reason. And maybe they're forced to sell because they don't have the capital or the ability to hold on to the card for an extended period of time. I believe most of you would understand what I'm referring to and have likely come across those situations before. But if you set some goals or objectives in advance, plus attaching a reasonable time expectation to those goals, you'll find your decision-making process a lot more streamlined. And rather than counting the dollars for every single card transaction, which by the way, you of course need to keep good accounting records, but that's a separate topic. You're better off looking at the big picture and see that the end result once you achieve those goals. So let's talk a bit about my goals, and maybe that will give you some perspective on how I think, as well as what has been working very well for me in the past. Again, I remind you, the matrices that you see here are fit for me. And you can come up with your own matrices, but you'll see where I'm getting to as I run through these points. As you can see here, I categorize my goals into 3 zones: pink, yellow, and green. You can have more than 3, that's up to you, but at minimum you need at least 2, one for short term and one for long term, which is the time frame driven that I mentioned earlier. The definition of short and long term is entirely up to you. It can be 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever that fits you, but the key is identifying this today and work towards those targets within that time frame. Now let's zone in on the bucket and look at this pink zone. I have here 150 PWCC, 50 listings, and 60 subs per month. Now let me explain what they mean. Because I run everything out of Malaysia, the most efficient way for me to do deals is to have my cards based in the US. Otherwise, I would have this logistical nightmare of shipping and taxes, not to mention costs as well. Also, as 95% of my customers are based in the US, you actually need reasonable shipping time, i.e. Domestic shipping, to compete with domestic sellers. Otherwise, why would someone in the US buy from me if shipping is 5 times more and takes an extra week to get the cards? So having my inventory operating from a vault is critical, and I chose PWCC, and I do have many other videos in the past talking about PWCC and why I use them. So 150 here means that I would like to have 150 items in my vault at all times. Now, 150 items in the vault doesn't automatically translate to 150 items available for sale, because there will be situations whereby A, the price are lower than your cost, B, speculations for higher selling price in the future, C, multiple copies or items of the same card, and D, a strategic long-term hold, which leads to the second line, which is listings. Listings is basically how many items you have for sale throughout the various platforms that are used, such as PWCC, eBay, and MySlabs. Of course, you need listings to sell, and the more you have, obviously, is the better. A lot of times, you buy a card at a good price and you list out one card on eBay and wonder why the view rate is so low. Chances are the card is not reaching out because the visibility is limited to just one search, which is the keywords in your title. So say your card was a 2003 LeBron James Topps 221 PSA 9. The search is just limited to those keywords, but if you have a larger number of listings, say you have a few Stephen Curry cards, some Luka, some Kobe's, most customers will check out the other listings that you may have when they search for a non-LeBron card and might just stumble upon your listing of the Topps 221. Now, I'm not saying that more listing guarantees more sales. You could be listing 100 bulk listings and that won't go anywhere. But if you have consistently good number of quality listings at all times, you're bound to get good momentum on your sales. Lastly, 60 subs per month. And that basically means how many card submissions I'd like to send to PSA each month, which is 60 cards. I think most of you are aware that raw to grade represents the highest potential for return, but of course the riskiest, given the fact that gem in raw copies are extremely difficult to ascertain and obtain when a person like myself is 100% relying on eBay or social media to purchase raw cards. You get better odds when you see the card in person at the store and local card shows, but since I'm 10,000 miles away, you gotta play with the cards that you're dealt with. Okay, I won't dive in the correlation of these three goals in the video as we're focusing on goal setting at the moment, but when we pan the color cards from left to right, you can see the increments in each of these goals from the pink to the yellow followed by the green, and that's where the time frame comes in. For me, pink is where I want to get to fast, and by fast I mean hopefully within the next 30 to 60 days. Yellow is probably about 4 months and green is probably about 12 months. So at some point, I want to be able to have on hand 300 listings at one time, which in my opinion might potentially translate to at least 3 sales transactions per day or around 100 transactions per month. Now, net margins would differ on each of these deals, but take an average of, let's say, $50, which is a reasonably low number to a lot of you, but fairly decent when you multiply that volume of 100 cards to equate to a $5,000 profit a month. And that's quite a nice spot to be in. Now, most of you, before watching this video, is probably thinking, how can I consistently make $5,000 a month selling cards within a starting budget of, say, $10,000, and realize you don't actually know where to begin, whether it will work, how long it will take, and at the end of the day, probably just give up based on the thought of how impossible the task is, or worst thing is to pursue it head on and hit all those issues we talked about in the start of the video. But if you take the time to lay out a plan in a clear and realistic manner and setting out time targets to it, as you go through the pink to the yellow and so on, you might find that the goals that you set is not a far reach after all. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed this new segment. I would appreciate comments if you like or dislike, or maybe you guys already got this all figured out. Whatever it may be, I do want to hear your thoughts though. So do subscribe and follow this channel for more card related content in the future. Thanks again for watching, guys. Till the next one, Cowboys out.